garden was started approximately 30 years ago by Kim McDodge. And here's our little founder picture. And we're in the same neighborhood of Northeast Portland. She bought 2 lots where the houses had burnt down. And after the houses burnt down, some of the neighbors used it for a garden, some used it for a woodlot. But once Kim bought it, she wanted to plant a garden that would be really productive and follow some gardening principles and soil conservation principles, primarily of Elaine Ingham, who is a soil scientist and was at the Oregon State University at the time. And so she started this garden, got some people together from the neighborhood, her friends, and then did this layout here. And it's laid out in what I believe is called the Hopi. It's a Hopi pattern of mother and child, because, you know, we were all hippies back then. That's what we did. It's all sort of earthy. So as you come into the garden, and so it's not a community garden, it's a land trust. And it's held in trust by Oregon Sustainable Agriculture Land Trust, or OSALT. And because it's a land trust, the property, in theory, should not be developed as long as the trust exists. And we also aren't a community garden in the sense that nobody has a separate bed. People might choose to target and work on one crop, but the beds and everything are all planted. Everybody plants, everybody shares, and we lay it out in somewhere in November or February what we're going to plant where, and then we just carry on and garden. Up in the front here, they're all on to your right here, to the south, there are all these roses. And at the time, a lot of the people that worked here worked for Portland Nursery, and the roses that are here came out of the dumpsters at Portland Nursery and were planted here. So we've got some beautiful roses, and they're unique. So the structures of the garden were built by one of our volunteers, Eric. The first thing he built was this little sales stand and the bulletin board. We use city water. Most of our stuff is drip irrigation. So this is our entrance, and then when people come to volunteer, anybody can volunteer. Do volunteer days 4 days a week right now. And all you have to do is show up with your clothes that you don't mind getting dirty and an interest in gardening. That's it. We'll teach you and show you what you need to do. And right now we're in a big production season. You can see by what's on the table here, we have squashes and eggplant and beans and carrots, and we are basil. And behind the kiosk here, you can see we have 2 herb beds. And they are just bursting with all different types of herbs. Okay, so looking for this beautiful, sort of shed back here. It's on the old, I believe it's on the old, probably on the old garage pad. You come back in here. This is the pad where the old garage used to be. And then our friend Eric got these beams. Everything is found, put in the beams, and built up this wonderful metal roofed spot to sit and do some work in. And when we come back here, this is where we do a lot of our planning and keep our starting supplies. So this is our garden layout. We've got it laid out so we can say, well, what are we going to plant where? And right now we're in mid-season, so it's not exactly true, but it's a little true. Things change during the season. The beans are where they're supposed to be. And so all the beds in the garden, except for 3 beds don't have water. All the other beds are on a drip irrigation system that gets rotated throughout the week. So every bed gets at least 5 hours of drip water a week. And probably more than that when it's really dry. And then I supplement water the rhubarb because the rhubarbs are here in these dry beds where we have no drip system. And okay, so then we have this little leftover greenhouse. This is an experimental prototype that someone gave to the garden. And so we do some seeding in here, but not a lot. Right now we've got some leeks and some other things coming up, but mostly this is here to hold tools. So this is where we keep gloves and scissors, cutting tools, hats for people if they get hot, watering supplies. So that's where this shed is for. Then we have 2 types of composting, which is interesting because you don't usually find 2 types in one garden. Right here is a static compost in front of us, and you can see it's got the fence posts driven in, there's cardboard on the outside, and then it just gets filled with all sorts of fresh garden matter throughout the year. And as the year goes, it gets lower and lower. It gets taller and low as the vegetation compost. Over here, we have this is where we do our hot composting. And we've got some hot compost finishing off that we haven't sifted. So this is our hot compost. And the bins over here contain leaves that we gather in the fall, so that when we gather it in the leaves in the fall, and at the same time these leaves have sat for a year, they're removed, they get placed on the bed for adding more organic matter to every bed, and then as this comes out, new leaves from all over the city goes in. So this gives us a lot of, just as part of the garden cycle, keeping it going. The 3 trees we have here are unique to Portland. This is a East Coast tree called a pawpaw. And in another couple of weeks, we should have a big crop. They're a tropical fruit. They're native to North America, and fortunately, I think for us, they seem to like growing in the garden, and they are a really delicious fall treat. Now, okay, so this is bed, or worm bed, right here, and what we're doing here is we're not trying to get the worms to be in here deep. We're trying to keep them up more on the top, and with the heat, it's been a little more challenging, and I must say, I'm not having the kind of success I would like. Now, if you look at this little insect here, this is an insect we're not particularly fond of. It looks like a little worm, but it is actually a hard covered larva of a click beetle. And these bugs love to eat our plant roots. And we don't like that. But what are we gonna do? I can't. You often, when I dig in here, will find roly-polies and a lot of other creatures. And I really think the heat has turned them off to being up at the top, because it's just, they are not here. Let's see. There's a bed of cabbages. And then as we come down here on our left, this is going to be, there's more native plants in here. Not all native, but some native. Of course, the sword fern. A hazelnut that will never have hazelnut. This is an elderberry. Then the berries have bloomed. The typical Oregon grape. And then back here, we've got a number of plants that are out of their bloom that are planted specifically for pollinators, and a couple of native honeysuckles that we are trying to see if we can get to grow here. And then, of course, again, all espalier, but not really right now. All that pollen just coming from the fennel. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I went to the Czech Museum there. So do you do a lot of cooking yourself? Bee on this white zinnia. It's not a regular honeybee. It's some kind of little bumble or native bee. They love these flowers. I was just here yesterday. I swear I picked cucumbers. Cucumbers are lovely, but they're a little on the evil side because they hide. And then you have no cucumbers. And then you go from no cucumbers to finding whales like this. One thing we do that I think that's interesting is in January we have a seed selection meeting. So we get everyone together and we say, what do you want to plant? And that way we get some new and interesting varieties of vegetables. Like for example here, this is a suyo cucumber. And the suyo cucumbers, from what I've read, are favored by sushi chefs. They have been grown for well over 2,000 years in Asia, and they are truly a delicious, long, spiny, real flavorful little plant.